Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and what else do we do? I have lost my outline. We support writers on their journey toward publication. So I hope everybody's well today. Today we're talking about...
Who are you?
I'll get to it. I'm Rhonda Hagerman. I write fiction and nonfiction.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write biblical fiction.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
And hey, Rhonda, when you talk, can we get you to hold your mic up a little bit? I know we're having technical difficulties on your end, so that's hard to hear you. Oh, that's so much better when you're holding it there.
Thank you. Good. I will do this then. All right. So good morning, ladies. Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about why isn't my book selling?
Mm-hmm.
So
should we do our what's up first, though?
Well, yes. Okay, let's do that.
I'm sorry, Rhonda. I don't mean to keep it.
No, that's okay.
All right.
Let
me do my what's up first. Can I do my what's up first? I gotta say yes, because I think it's my fault partially that Rhonda is like a little tired and stuff. Because for my anniversary this weekend, I arranged a meet and greet with my husband's favorite author, Rhonda Hagerman, who came to Florida to meet my husband. And she is now not staying in her normal domicile because of the meet and greet. But in all seriousness, she's in Florida, so we had to hook up and see each other. And my husband was very excited to meet you, Rhonda. So thanks for coming around.
Mm-hmm.
And it is my anniversary weekend. So yeah.
Yay.
Happy anniversary to my hubby. We've been married for 18 years as of Pi Day, March 14th. Love him to pieces. And he was really excited to meet you, Rhonda.
Oh, good. I was excited to meet him too. As a human. It was awesome. It was great.
As a human, right? Because she'd never met him before. She just assumed that he was just like made up, or he was her pet dog.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every time I was supposed to see Stash. Oh, sorry, Stash isn't here right now, but here's my dog.
There were rumors going around that Stash was a dog.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or
the dog was Stash. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Jamie started those rumors. Just saying. Maria says you have a pie day. Immediately Googles. Pie meaning like 3.146 blah blah blah. So 314. Yeah, 314 is
so it's actually Pi Day, P-I.
Right. Day. But most people celebrate with pie
because it's pie. Yes.
Because why not?
Right.
And you can cut it into 3.14 pieces and then eat them all.
That is a good idea.
Yes, great.
She also says happy
birthday.
Sorry.
Okay. Tina, why don't you tell us what's up with you?
Well, I decided to be a copycat and take the Write Better Faster course that one of our chatters had taken. And one of the coaches in there we were talking about the biggest thing that frustrates you about your career. And I was talking about how I can have a completely developed scene and know exactly what I want to write. And when I sit down to write, there's like this resistance. There's like this freezing thing that would go on. Kind of like when you're trying to start your car in the winter. And you know it's full of gas, and you know like the oil's been changed, and everything should be working properly, but it just doesn't want to turn over. Like that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And she suggested that I open my prompt for the scene I'm going to write the next day, the night before I go to bed, and then look at it first thing when I get up. And so she told me this on like Saturday, and I started doing it on Monday, and I've been writing like between 1,000 and 1,500 words before office hours even starts.
That's awesome.
Good for you.
That's really great.
Like, totally like plugged my engine in or something. Like in Alaska when it's cold, we plug our engines in. So like
that's really
anyway.
Really
so that's my what's up. I'm really stoked about that, and I've been super productive this week. So I'm happy.
That's awesome.
Piper shared her what's up. A wonderful reader alerted me to the fact that my title page had the wrong title in time for me to get it changed before it goes live next Thursday. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I know what it's like to have a problem at the last minute and trying to get it fixed before these go live. That's we've all been there. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. So I'll give you my what's up. What is my what's up? Okay. So what I did this week, I've had a huge TBR list down here, on the beach. I've got to have a book with me all the time. And so I had about 12 books that I wanted to get read while I was down here. Well, I finally got to a point in my list where I could get to this one particular book, and it has been so good. I'm not an Audible book reader, an audiobook, but I just like to feel the books. I like to see the pages. I like to see the words. It just helps me absorb the book a little bit better. But anyway, I tried out this book, and it was so good. We are going to do an episode. I'm just telling you right now. We're going to do an episode on hiring a narrator for your audiobook and what you should look for. But anyway, I'll be leaving a review for that book today when I finish the last 2 chapters of it. So anyway,
because you think it was the narrator that made all the difference, is what you're saying.
I do. So anyway, the book is called Lost in the Land of the Midnight Sun by our very own Tina Katang. And
the
it's set in
narrator's
Alaska.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yes. She used a native to read the book, and it just adds such depth to it. So anyway, I highly recommend the book, audio or otherwise. And anyway, that's what I've been doing this week.
What an awesome what's up.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for the plug.
No problem.
All right, so my what's up is it's a Julia Sugarbaker what's up, just so you all know. If you were here with us a couple weeks ago, we had a whole conversation about Julia Sugarbaker. So I heard my husband on the phone with, I will not say who, but it was someone that's, close or whatever, but not close enough. We'll say close friend or family member. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And the person obviously asked about me. And so my husband shared what was going, that she's on the almost the end of the book is coming out, and she's working really hard getting that out. And then I heard my husband pause, and he's like, well, okay. Anyway, long story short, this person asked him, oh, how are her book sales going?
No way.
This is not a person in the industry. This is not anyone that knows anything about, but so I'm sitting across the room and Julia starts coming out, and I'm like, but being married to a non-Julia is a situation where he's not going to bounce back. So I'm just like, give me the phone. But he didn't. So I just wanted to share this, because if I know that this happens to all of us, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to, that people outside the industry especially feel that somehow they have the right to justify whether or not what you're doing is a career or worth your time. And they will use finances and financials to try to justify that, when first of all, it's none of their business.
That's right.
Second of all, that is not what qualifies you as a writer or an author.
Preach, girl.
Yes. And so had he said it to me, which I'm sure at some point it will happen, my first thing is going to be like, do you really think it's appropriate to ask me? And my second thing is going to be like, I'm an open book, so let's open up your finances first. I would like to see your books on your business that you own. Show me what you're paying out and what you're receiving in, and then I'll be more than willing to talk to you about my book sales. Because
isn't nobody, like glass houses, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw rocks, right?
Yeah, like it's like, and I'm getting mad about it because like on here, I will be completely transparent about my finances, and we're going to talk about that. And so I'm glad that Rhonda left me last.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of transfer into this topic today about book sales and like that. And I think it's a good topic to have with people in the industry, but do not ever let anybody make you feel like less of an author or what you're doing isn't important based on what your book sales are, because they don't know anything about the industry. They don't know anything about it. So and then stand up for yourself. If someone ever tries to ask you that, you need to say to them, you show me your finances first, open up your checkbook, and then we can talk about mine. Because I think maybe first of all, they don't realize how inappropriate it is. But if they don't, they need to understand really quick that just because I'm a creative doesn't mean that you could justify asking me about how much money I make as a creative.
Yeah, that's very rude. Nobody would ever ask like a proctologist, how much money do you make? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just as much of their business.
Because
Is anybody else really terrified of Jennifer right now?
Yes, right? Like you might not know Julia Sugarbaker, but you know Jennifer Tong.
Right.
So you go Jennifer on them with one N. One N.
Nobody calls her Jenny either.
But you all know if I was sitting there with you at a table and somebody asked me the same question,
sure.
I would have been all over it.
That's why you're upset, Jennifer, really, because you can take it, but you have friends like me who can't. Right. And immediately when you hear that stuff, you think, what would that do to my friend? And the sword comes out. So I get it. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you kind of saying that for anyone who might need to hear it. Because we're all writers, but sometimes we're the ones being nasty and we don't even recognize it. So I really appreciate you calling kind of everybody out right now, because we all should be careful not to be the one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's 100%. Like I said, that's a great point, Jamie. I did say that I would be open and transparent with everybody on here, but that's because everybody loves each other on here, right? But don't go onto a Facebook page or go on Twitter and be like acting like that person is not as good of an author as you because they don't make as much as you or whatever.
Right.
Right. The money isn't about the book. It's about the marketing, and we're going to kind of get into that. But anywho, so can you believe that? Though, seriously, can you believe that somebody asked him that? Like,
I mean, they must not have known you were in the room is all I'm thinking. They must not have known you could even possibly know that they were saying it. Like, how could
thought
they?
About that. I never thought, because they do know me well enough to know that I'd be like,
out comes the sword.
Well, can I just say how excited I am that Jason wrote like over 5,000 words this week?
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah,
5,050.
Our chatter, what's up, Rhonda? What's up in the chat here? Who's got a what's up for us? I saw that Jason, you said, wrote 5,000 words.
5,050.
Shell's working on a new short story. Piper agrees that the narrator can make or break her book. I see that. She got she looked into doing an audiobook. Okay, so that's about all the what's ups that I see. So yeah, caught up there.
All right. Okay, so we're ready to go on.
No. Maria, I'm sorry, but Maria had that thing where she had to go do that interview with those kids. Yeah, and she said it went really great. And she put this really adorable video of the girl reading an excerpt. Like one of the girls actually read an excerpt of her book for the Oh, there it is. Thanks for your prayers. My author event went really well. Lots of fun with cheese and wine and chatting about my books. Also included an extract of Lottie's Lackett read now on YouTube. You're famous. That's great. It's really sweet too. The girl has a really sweet accent and she reads beautifully. You should check it out.
Do we get to hear Maria's accent?
She did not share herself. She only shared that sweet girl reading her awesome extract.
Does anybody want to hear my accent?
Yes.
No.
Always.
Please.
No, I love Maria too much. I'm not going to do it.
I want to hear you rap. That's what I want to hear.
Random. Okay, can we talk about the topic today? Because this is a really good topic.
Yeah.
We see the question asked online a lot. And instead of just being like snarky behind the scenes, we want to talk about it tonight and give some legitimate, not us, other people.
Just being snarky behind the scenes.
Julia.
I mean, we're still going to do that part, but then we're going to come live and be nice. No, just kidding.
Right. Okay, Jamie, throw me a reason. What is the reason that books don't sell?
Because you don't try to sell them. I mean, that's like the first reason. Like, that is my reason.
Yes.
Like, my books languish over in the corner and collect dust. And, you know, I mean, what do I expect? I mean, zero effort, zero. And that's what happens. Like, you can't just write something and put it like out there and think people are just going to walk past. I mean, first of all, it's a digital item in a digital world and people live in the real world. So do you know what I'm saying? And if you have physical books to sell to people, like imagine they're not even in a store someone could accidentally walk into. How could anybody find my book just sitting there collecting dust? I just haven't really been motivated to sell, which is what we're going to talk about today. If you are, how can you not be doing what I'm doing?
Okay. Tina, do you have an idea why books don't sell?
Well, I think the number one thing we got to look at if your book isn't selling is your cover.
Okay.
What does your cover look like? Is it professional? Does it? When I'm looking for a sci-fi book, I'm looking for a specific kind of cover. Like I'm going browsing through the bookstore, and it's the cover. You really do judge a book by its cover. when you're buying books. And if it says Space Wars on it, but there's a picture of a girl in a period dress with her head like this, you're gonna be like, what kind of sci-fi is this? And you're gonna put it right back on the shelf.
So your cover should match your genre.
Yes, exactly.
100%. And like that's, Tina gave a very extreme example, but we have seen it before where the cover just doesn't fit genre. So other things that looked at too is like, is it readable? Is the font readable? Are the images professional? Because if a book is like, let's say you, first of all, you have to get your images properly. You have to purchase them or take them yourself, something. But you have to make sure that looks professional too. But if you don't know, if you really just don't know, then that you have to put the research in. You have to go find the genre that you're writing in, and you have to look and look and look at all the books, the ones that are selling. Look at the books that are at the top of that genre and see what they look like. And then you try to make sure that you can emulate it without completely copying it, right?
Okay. So, but I'm a writer, not a photographer. So where do I get these fonts and pictures and other elements?
Well, I would recommend hiring it done personally. That's one of the places I would spend money is on a cover. Learning how to do cover design, especially if you're not someone who already does photo manipulation in a program like GIMP or Photoshop, I certainly would put in my business plan that the cover is where I'm going to spend money, because it is a really long and hard learning curve to get it right. And there's an artistic element, just like you wouldn't expect somebody else to write your book for you because the artistic element would be missing. You wouldn't want you wouldn't want to try to do cover design because it's not what you do. Do you know what I mean? So ideally you would hire someone whose passion is visual art, graphic design, and is going to give you a cover that will sell. But if you can't afford that, you need to figure out what you can afford and what you're willing to learn, and sort of find the place on the graph where those two things meet and proceed accordingly, because the cover is very important. And if you show your cover around and people say, well, it's okay. There's a difference between homemade, gonna embarrass you, and homemade but passable. And you need to find the people who love you enough to tell you won't be embarrassed. So that's my whole advice about covers.
So to springboard off what Jamie said, getting it paid to be done, there are lots of websites out there that you can get pre-mades off of. You can just Google search it on book pre-made covers, and you can get them as less than $100. And I think that's I've seen them for $30 before, and that would be better than sometimes a person trying to do their own cover.
Sometimes you really have to know yourself. You really have to know what you're capable of.
Right. And so, but if you do have graphic skills, and you're looking for images, there are stock sites that you can get them from. I use a lot of Deposit Photos, and I also use Shutterstock. Those are my two favorite. I have accounts with those two, but I know that that Adobe has Adobe Stock, I think it's called. There's other ones out there, but that when you purchase them, then you have the full rights.
Yes. And you're saying purchase, which is another reason why I might consider hiring it done, because if you want to know that your images are safe to use, you probably want to use one of the paid sites for your images. Okay. So here you're going to have an investment either way. You're going to be buying images and you're going to be licensing fonts and images, or you're going to be buying a cover done. I'm not saying everybody has to hire a cover done. I'm just bringing up other concerns as a strategic restorative that people need to be thinking about, that the expense will be there for you one way or the other.
So we don't want to get too far off track, because it's turning into a whole nother podcast. But you also, if you do hire out, especially if it's a less expensive designer, you have to make sure that the images are actually owned by them, because there will be some people that do not do that part properly either. So again, we have had a podcast about this. Maybe we should revisit it again soon. But agree with Jamie. You can hire it out. You can do it inexpensively, but you have to also know what you're doing. You have to know your genre. Just because you hire someone to do a romance cover for you, a Christian romance cover, doesn't mean they know what they're doing in that genre. You have to know your genre as well, and you have to make sure that their images are purchased properly the right way.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you paid them to do it; it'll come back on you. But again, we're way off topic now. Way off.
But takeaway point number one: good cover to sell a book.
Yes, I do have one more question about this though. Tina, when you first were going to release your book, you were going to, your cover looked like something very similar to the Tim LaHaye, Jerry Jenkins Left Behind series. Can you tell us why you chose that and why did you end up not going with that? Just real quickly.
Well, I think that my cover is kind of a cross between that Tim LaHaye, Jerry Jenkins kind of sunset look. They have changed their covers actually for those books now, but at the time it was like the big orange sun with like an orange band and black on the top and bottom. So I think my cover's like a cross between that and oh my gosh, my mind just went blank.
The Hunger Games?
The Hunger Games with the emblem with the bird in the middle. Because I have been calling my book Christian dystopian fiction forever. Of course, that is not an Amazon category, so I had to go with fantasy, but I still want my cover to say dystopian.
Okay. I will accept that answer from you. Okay. Now, let's see. Jennifer, can you talk to us a little bit about blurbs?
Yes.
Also a cover topic.
If your cover is on point and you've done due diligence to make sure you have a good cover and you're still not selling, the next thing I would look at is your blurb. Because when somebody goes to look for a book, they first will see the cover. And then if they like the cover, the next thing they look at is they read the blurb. And so many times in different Facebook groups I'm in and just talking with other authors and seeing it, a blurb is not a synopsis. It is not here's what happens in my book. That's not what it is. A blurb is more of
a commercial.
Well, yes, but it's more of like the conflict, right? You're talking about the pull and take of the book. It's not what happens. It's the conflict that's in there.
What makes the book interesting and compelling, right? So when you say the word conflict, some people are literally thinking like a fist fight or like a battle, but that's not what you're saying. You're saying like the part of the book that is the tension, the part of the book that the hero's desire.
Yes, the stakes of the book.
That's excellent way to put it, Jennifer. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say I like the word stakes better than conflict because the stakes aren't always conflict, but there are stakes in your book and something that your character is after that they're trying to get. And also, I don't know if readers understand that blurbs are not the synopsis of the book because I had somebody say to me, "Well, your blurb said this, but then you didn't say anything about that in the story." And I was like, well, first of all, this isn't a synopsis.
Well, that sounds like a particular
Were they
reader.
saying that what you put in your blurb was not in the story, or were they saying that not everything in the story was in the blurb?
No, they were saying that that I said that in the blurb I say no matter how many sacrifices she brings to the altar, and this person was like, well, there was only one time she went to the altar in your book. But like I
lifetime of
I do say in the book that she had spent a lifetime going to the altar. So but they were expecting the book to be about that. I guess I don't know what they were thinking, but I'm just saying I don't know if readers always understand that this isn't a synopsis.
Would you guys say that the blurb and the cover are they equally weighted? Would you say?
No.
Cover first,
because cover for people are shopping with their eyeballs. Like think you're browsing Amazon, you don't even see that blurb. But as far as how important they are, Jennifer, not like. Do you know what I'm saying? Like someone turns your book over, now they get a bad blurb. Are they putting it back? So is it just as important? Rhonda's asking.
Well, I would say the majority of people that are going to buy your book are not flipping a physical book over. They're on Amazon, they're on Barnes & Noble, they're on Waterstone, they're somewhere online digitally, especially in our world today, and they're reading it. So it's so easy to click onto another book. So it might be a book that they would love, but if it's just kind of like, all right, that one's okay, let me go see if I can find another one. But you have one that's like, ooh, that hooks you in, then that is going to be the world of difference. So it's really about pulling them in.
You got to hook them on the top. You have to have your hook first because they're only going to show this much of your blurb on the Amazon page. And then there'll be the little see more thing. And so you want to get them before, you want the text that really gets them to be before that see more thing.
True.
I like that advice, Tina. And I'm gonna come out then as the lone person to say I think they're equally as important, because I feel like if you're looking for a sci-fi book and then the title grabs you, but you turn it over, you could lose someone super fast because they know they want sci-fi. So what's so great about your sci-fi book? So you got them with the cover, your blurb's gonna have to sell you. So I would come out with that they are equally as important.
There's some chatter happening in our chat, and I don't want you all to think we're ignoring you. I see what you're saying, but we're getting there. Maybe we weren't very clear at the beginning of this podcast, but we are showing you, like, we're talking about why your book isn't selling, and we're starting at the base. These are the steps you have to go to, and we're going to get to where you guys are asking questions. So I see you. I don't want you guys to think that we are ignoring you, but we're getting there. So
I think with the blurb and the cover, it's not so much that they're equal on the same plane. It's more like there's gates that you have to go through.
Good point.
And you have to get through gate 1. If your cover doesn't get them, they're never going to look at your blurb. So you have to get through gate 1 and then pass that test to get them to look at your blurb. And then the blurb has to be, they have to pass that one too to get to the next thing.
Right. Piper is agreeing with you, but then she just said something that agrees with you. But then she also said here, Brian Cohen and Mark Dawson have done a survey that suggests the blurb is actually more important. I could see that. I mean, it's like, so I think like Jamie's right. It's kind of like they're very, very close. So
as a reader, I would totally agree with that.
Yeah. But again, like these are the first 2 things you need to look at.
Okay. I just have one more question. So you know that when you're writing in your genre, you've got tropes and you've got certain things you've got to accomplish. Are writing blurbs for different genres, are they different, or do they all have the exact same rules?
They're similar. I think that you can follow similar rules, but I think that, they are different and they're hard. They're very different from writing your book. First of all, it's a different thing. But go ahead, Jamie, and then I'll finish.
That's okay. You go ahead.
I would suggest, like, what has worked for me. Piper mentioned Brian Cohen. I bought his book. He has a book called Sizzling Synopsis, and it is a great resource to own. You can keep going back to it. He gives you it's a whole book, but then he also really makes it super simple for you and gives you kind of like a pattern that you can do to follow it. And so that I would suggest, if anyone's struggling with theirs or hasn't written one yet, his book is definitely worth it.
I love that, because then you kind of have a pattern, like Jennifer said, to follow, and it makes it kind of easy peasy to do the next one.
Yeah. I also used Brian Cohen's book when writing my blurb and used his pattern.
Right. And then Piper says what I didn't say, but this is romance wants both characters mentioned, non-romance doesn't. Right. So it's the same pattern, and you're still talking stakes, but the stakes will look different when you have 2 different characters. So unless it's from a single perspective. So.
All right. Any more comments on blurbs or covers?
No, but I am wondering, do we need to make this more than one episode? I mean, we still have so much to talk about, and it's already 10:30. So I'm just throwing that out there as strategic restorative, or we have to be lickety split with the rest of this.
Okay, let's just cover the tops of these then.
All right.
Okay, who wants to cover metadata?
Not me.
Tina, I'm picking on you.
I'm picking on Tina too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, when you go to upload your book on Amazon or Ingram Spark or Draft to Digital or wherever you are, whoever you're using to aggregate your book into the world, you will have to fill out what is called the metadata. And this is so important because this is going to decide, Amazon's going to decide who to show your book to based on which categories and which keywords that you choose for your book. So if I go into Amazon and I want to read a Christian dystopian fiction novel and I type that into their search bar, you want your book to show up if that's what you've written. And the way that you do that is through the metadata.
And so it's one of those things that when you go to set up your book for the first time and they ask you what, your categories, they ask you what your keywords are, and you're like, oh, like this is an important thing. And I think that we need to cover this in an entire other podcast where we just talk about metadata, because I agree with Tina. It is so important. And if your metadata isn't if you just kind of like I did with my first 2 books, I just kind of threw things in there because I still was learning the process. Now on my book 3, I know the process. Now I'm like, okay, this is a weakness of mine. I need to work on my metadata. And so we need to have a whole podcast talking about that, because if my metadata isn't on point, then no one's going to be able to find me. I'm not going to be indexed like I'm supposed to. And even if somebody search for Christian historical romance, I might not be indexed properly and I might never show up.
Does anybody mind if we do that episode next week?
Rhonda. As long as Rhonda, will you just please define metadata? Please, just a definition of what you're talking about. What is metadata?
Basically, metadata is keywords that go on specific spots. So I think at this point, everybody knows what keywords are, right? And
keywords are when people type in a search
on the internet,
or in Amazon specifically. They are keywords that are attached to your book.
Yep. So when you use keywords, those are people are searching in Google for whatever the keyword is. Metadata is more for the search engines that your platform is on.
Yes, we need a whole nother episode, because I'm thinking, well, where do you put this? Do you know what I mean? So tune in to our next episode.
Not the next one. We already have something planned for the next one. But remember? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Teresa says, just keep talking. I could stay in Friday all day. Michelle says, yes, Teresa, I'm over here taking notes like a fiend. All right. We appreciate that. But we do want to keep it as concise as possible, because I do think we need to unpack some of this stuff at greater length. And we just want to focus on why your book isn't selling, give you some ideas, and then let's work on that together. Because you notice the title of this one, and we didn't really mention that at the beginning, is Why Isn't My Book Selling? We aren't saying why isn't your book selling? We're looking at ourselves too. And I hope you guys do that always in every podcast. We do these podcast episodes to help ourselves as much as we do to help anyone else.
I came right out here and said, I'm the how not to do it, everyone. So don't think I'm sitting here trying to tell everybody what to do or how to do anything right.
Yeah. But I do have to just go back in time for just a second and say, when you published that book, you specifically said, I'm just hitting publish. I just have to get something out there. And I think you did the right thing for yourself at that time.
Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Because so much of this stuff can be gone. You can go back in and fix it.
Right.
I mean, you want to have a good launch, and we're probably going to have another episode on launching, because both Tina and I will have books coming out. We're all going to have books coming out soon again. But you want to have a good launch, but you know what? It's okay if it didn't go great, because all this stuff can be gone and fixed. So.
I just updated my covers. I got better at making covers. And so I went and made some that I thought were better. And I'll just keep making new ones as I get better at cover design. And because I'm independently published, I can do that.
That's right.
And goes into Amazon. All right, we have one more topic, or one more thing that we think that if your book isn't selling.
2 more, actually.
Oh, that's right. 2 more. Sorry. I hadn't scrolled up. So the first 3 things, we feel like you got to look at those first. But if your cover is solid, your blurb is on point, and you've worked on your metadata, you've done the research, and again, we're going to talk about that later, and you're still not selling, this is what's next. Tina, what would you say, queen of this right now in our group?
Marketing.
So this is how this topic even came on our plate, that we said when you talk about this. Is I was in a Facebook group, and I'm not going to be specific, but somebody basically said, I don't think Christians read anymore because my book's not selling. And then, of course, there was like 80 to 100 comments after that. Some people saying, mine too, I agree. But most people saying, what? I'm a Christian and I read a lot. I read 8 books last year. I read 107 last year, but one person, the second or third comment was, well, how are you marketing your book? Very, very genuine, like was asking. And he's like, yeah, well, there's the rub. I'm not.
Yeah.
But nobody's reading.
Yeah, right.
So anyways, that's how this started, was because we thought, this gentleman or woman, I'm not going to be specific, honestly, I think he really honestly thought that the problem was that people don't read anymore. And so we have to look at that as ourselves. If your book isn't selling, how are you? First of all, are you marketing? Like Jamie was very honest. She's like, she hasn't marketed. I haven't marketed, but guess what? That was part of my plan. I'm not doing marketing until full on marketing until book 4 comes out.
That always was what you said from the beginning,
from day one. So, Mr. How's
there's
your book
more
sales
than one
doing?
way. Yeah.
Do you want the whole story? Because I will sit down and tell you all.
Well, here's my business plan.
Right. So Tina, I think you've got a great quote or a mantra or something.
Yeah, I really like in Pinocchio when the puppet master is going to make him a star. And he says, I'm going to push your name in the public's eye. Your face, she's going to be on everybody's tongue. And, you know, I know that my marketing is going to be way more effective when I have a series, but I just wanted to play with it. And I had some extra money, and I decided that I was going to do certain things and see how they worked. And it was more of like a research kind of thing. Let's see if this really works. And so I'm kind of like in this position now where I'm like, oh, well, that was an accident. I accidentally hit number one. I just wanted to see if the marketing system that I wanted to try worked. So the marketing works. And, you know, I can never pronounce that. You know the thing where God comes in and rescues you at the last minute?
Deus ex machina.
Yeah, that doesn't work for marketing any more than it works in your right.
Agreed. You know, I've always said, you guys have heard me on this podcast say it over and over again. If God gave you your story, it deserves the time for you to put the writing in. It deserves the time for you to learn how to write, how to learn how to edit, and put out the best quality product you can. I feel like the same thing with marketing. God isn't just going to show up. Like, all right, can he? Yes. He could just show up and be like, bing, #1 bestseller. But do you think that God would have given you the ability and the intelligence if he didn't expect you to use it? Right? Because think about all that you're going to learn, all the people that you're going to meet, all the experiences you're going to have, and how you can grow his kingdom by getting out there and learning how to market and meeting other people and the networking. Like, so think of it in that terms. If you're one of those people that thinks, well, God's just going to sell my book. He could, but chances are he expects you to put in the time and effort that if he gave you that story, he expects you to commit that time to the marketing as well. So there will be like a learning curve. And again, this is going to be another podcast, but if you aren't marketing, or maybe you're not marketing correctly, your book isn't going to sell. And this is going to be something that you just have to learn, and you're going to have to put the time in. And Tina is very, she's being very generous by saying, oh, it was an accident. Tina's put a lot of work into that. Tina's been behind the scenes, taking courses in it, learning, watching YouTube channel, like, because she and I are both input. So when we are like doing dishes or whatever, generally there's a podcast on that we're learning something, because that's just our strengths, our Clifton strength. So like, she's putting the time in, and you're probably just gonna have to do that.
Yeah. Tina, I want you to talk about this, because you made a huge change in your book when you thought you were almost done with it, with your content. So can you tell us why you might want to revisit your content?
Well,
so if marketing and Elvis isn't working, so now we're moving on to the next topic. Sorry, just clarifying for the listeners.
Yeah.
So if you've done all this, you're doing marketing and you're still not selling, then you unfortunately
want to look at your content. I would say the first thing in content you need to look at is what's in your look inside. If you have not edited and you have a bunch of typos and grammar errors in your look inside, people are not going to buy your book. That wasn't really what happened with what Rhonda just said. I sent my book out to beta readers, and there were some plot holes and some things that weren't working. And then I realized I just needed to start over. And so I started over, and I ended up with the same theme, same kind of idea, but totally different story.
Right.
So.
And, you know, I'm that person that when I sit in church and I'm looking at the bulletin, I have a pen out correcting it. Like it's just my personality. Those kind of things stand out and glare at me. However, you can ask Jamie. When and I've edited it several times before I sent it to her, it's still riddled with mistakes. Like, you have to have someone else. Like, you cannot just be like, I could try and be arrogant and be like, oh, my book's good enough. I've looked at it several times. I'm just going to publish. But it's possible that there's still mistakes. And if people see them, especially in the look inside, Tina's right. Like, that's the next thing people are going to do. If it's distracting, they're not going to buy it. So unfortunately, if you've done everything else and it's still not selling, the hard truth might be that you might have to look at your book again.
And sometimes when you go through all the things you're supposed to do, you know, you put it through all the programs and you've had it read to you by word, and you sent it out to an editor, you still have somebody calling one of your characters by the wrong name after it gets published.
Yes.
Yeah. So accidents happen, but the important part is that you try your best to put something out there that you are proud of and that you could say is your best work. And if you can't say it's your best work, then don't publish.
That's Agreed. Very good. All right.
So I know it was probably hard for everybody to listen to not everybody, some people to listen to this today. And it might be some truths that you don't want to see. It's some truths that I don't want to see. I'll be honest.
Well,
but this is what we're here for, right?
I know, because guess what? When my writing was the problem, I didn't believe it. And the reason I know this is because when we did this outline, I said that should be number 1. Go check your content and make sure the writing is good. And Jennifer's like, but Jamie, these people already think their writing is good. That's why they want to publish it. And I thought back, and I went in the time machine of when I was pitching my first Nano novel that I thought was amazing. And I did. I thought that the writing was enough. I thought that my plot was enough. I thought that my story structure was enough. I thought it was everybody else who had the problem. But the fact of the matter is, I had to sit my butt in a chair and write like 500,000 words before I really thought that I could even pretend to measure up to the great writing that I had read in my youth. And if I'm honest with myself, that's where I was, but I was too arrogant to actually look at my work and be critical in that way. So if you're not matching up to your master yet, then you still have work to do. But if it's the best that you can do today, publish that sucker and let the world see it and then market it.
Yep, that's right. And that's a great place for us to end right now. We have so much more to say on every one of these topics that we're just going to have to do another episode on each one of them. And it'll be full of information, just like this one was. So is everybody okay with moving on to Feeding the Facts?
Yes.
All righty. All right. So right now we're going to read our sprints. So what we do is we submit a raw, fresh, unedited piece. It helps us to develop a safe community for receiving criticism because we take turns each being utterly vulnerable. Because these are new, unedited works, we do not give criticism, only encouragement. We were given 15 minutes to write, and this week's prompt is, Tina?
I'll let you know when I have the skeleton, a sentence that needs to be used.
All right. Would you read for us, please?
Can we just say real quick that was a real sentence heard by one of our podcasters said that out loud, and we're like, if that isn't our next sentence prompt, then there's a real problem.
Right.
Okay. Sweat trickled down the back of Charlie's neck. It was actually a relief because the slight breeze from the north moved across it, and a barely perceptible sense of coolness comforted him, if only for a split second. He reached for his canteen. The few mouthfuls left in it made a tinkling sound when he shook it. The tepid liquid quenched his thirst barely enough for him to continue working. He swept gently at the dust with his brush. It flew up in little puffs as he worked, the grit of it getting in his eyes and nose, on his tongue. When he was a boy and dreamed of digging up the treasures of ancient Egypt, this hadn't been part of them. Very little of what he dreamed was actually a reality. His days were filled with pressing heat, incessant sand, and too little to drink. Of course, he could have gallons and it still wouldn't quench the dryness that never seemed to leave his mouth. "How's it going?" Sir Archibald Henry III stood over him, casting a much-appreciated shadow across Charlie's face. Archie, as Charlie secretly called him, was whipping an old church lady fan at his overripe face.
Oh, nice.
It was ripped at the base, which made it grossly ineffective. "I'll let you know when I have the skeleton," Charlie answered, long ago relieved of any sense of respect the man's title may have bought him. "Very well," the man said. "I'm going back to the hotel. This heat." The man had only just arrived a half an hour ago, but Charlie held his tongue. He knew from experience speaking up would have little effect. A gust of wind picked up the sand, turning it into a small dervish and setting it into Charlie's face. He stood and peered at the sky. The shadow of the rotund Archie had caused Charlie to miss the changes on the horizon, and now a tawny wall reached up into the sky. "Sandstorm!" Charlie shouted as he jumped to his feet, rolling his tools in their leather pouch and running for the trucks. Archie waddled along behind him, a penguin stuck in the wrong medium.
Wow.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, first of all,
much.
archaeologist. Without you ever using the word or telling us what he was, whatever you told us he was an archaeologist just by what you're writing, and that was excellent, Tina.
Very well done.
That was by accident. I couldn't think of the word archaeologist.
Well, I hope in the future you forget big words so that you have to show, not tell.
Oh, that's
very good. I love your name, Archibald Henry III. Oh, wonderful. I also like the overripe face. Awesome. Batting at his a fan at his overripe face. And
an old church lady fan.
Oh, yeah.
An old church lady fan. Excellent.
And the tepid water tinkling in the canteen. I mean, the details are in just the right spots, Tina. Masterful writing right there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Incessant sand. There was a trifecta there. It was pressing heat, incessant sand, and blah-diddy, blah, blah, blah. Man, it was musical. Very good.
Agreed.
All right. Jamie, why don't you go next?
Oh, boy. All righty. I think I failed to use the sentence. I really thought that I did. Like, I started with really good intentions. Okay, here we go. The sentence I was supposed to use is, I'll let you know when I have the skeleton. It had been a long time since I had seen anything like it. The lion had been put down in the most inhumane way possible, and the recovery of the remains required resources beyond our usual. I had to call in a specialist to remove the blood and entrails from the ceiling fan, for example.
What?
Ain't right.
I'm sorry, go on.
Ain't right for any of God's creatures to be treated this way, the toothless helper said, hauling in the second bucket of foaming white cleanser and slopping it summarily about the place while I tried to get a handle on the scene. Especially the king of beasts, what a shame. There was plenty of tongue clucking and head shaking to go around for the next few days as I combed the place, looking for any indication that the animal had attacked unprovoked, as the keeper had claimed. Sitting at my desk later that day, I thumbed through his file. Ned Bakerton, age 47, lifelong animal lover and advocate. His record showed many citations for exemplary service at the zoo, an award for an enrichment he'd set up in the chimpanzee house, for example, and several proud to be a zookeeper trinkets were found among his personal possessions, including a cheap plastic gold-colored medal apparently awarded for participating in something called the Seahorse Fun Run. I closed Ned's file, sliding it across my desk, and once again slid the image of the destroyed feline nearer. What had caused Ned Bakerton to lose his mind and do what had been done to that poor creature? And that's all that I decide to write.
Wow. Ceiling fan. Did he explode?
Yeah.
Like,
I guess.
I'm curious.
I'm still not sure. I would have to write more to find out.
And a seahorse fun run. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So awesome. Like, aren't those little things? Like, let's save the seahorse. Let's have a fun run. I loved every minute of it, Jamie.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Sorry, I never got to the skeleton. The lion was like, he was supposed to go recover the lion skeleton, but it just didn't ever happen.
I love how you snuck the lion in there. In the first place.
Oh, yes. Thanks.
Yeah. Poor Leo.
Yeah, we were talking about lions. Yeah, poor Leo.
Poor Leo.
I don't know what you have against Leo, but
I know. Yeah, Piper says, oh no, what did he do? Yeah, I'm not sure what he did or why. I would love to know if anybody would like to write and tell me. Yes, it's your fan fiction assignment for this week.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
All right.
Who's next?
I guess I have to go next. All right. Okay. No comments from me. I'll let you know when I have the skeleton. Will you quit calling them skeletons? That's really not accurate, you know. Marina laid the carapace into the storage box gently. She knew better than to be careless with a brilliantly colored but fragile wafer of calcium. Oh, it's hard for me to say.
Rhonda.
Sorry. Marty rolled his eyes. When I get back, I should have several exoskeletons in a nice variety of patterns. Thank you, Marty. You know how it's important to use the proper terms in the office so that we use them when we're working with the kids. She finished her sentence even though she'd heard him shuffle out the office door even before he finished his own sentence. She sent someone walk back into the room as goose flesh rose in her arms and a tingle shot like lightning up her spine. Her arms frozen in midair, still posed with the tools of her trade. Something's different. I never react to Marty like that. She stiffened when a large hand touched her neck. The intruder was close enough that she felt warm breath tickle the other side of her exposed skin. Marina wrapped her fingers tightly around the mallet in her grasp, just in case. Leo, it's you. That's as far as I got. The time.
Yay! Story of the day. Story of the day. Rhonda, the tension that you built up there was so yummy. And what a good payoff. I love it. Really, really good, Rhonda.
Good.
Really
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah. And I love
Jennifer has to read now.
Okay, can you please tell me carapace? Spell that. And what is it?
Carapice. And when you see a crab, the colorful shell on the outside of him, that's his carapace. And it's
careful with the carapace. Ooh, calcium carapace, like all of the words you had there. That was so delicious. The alliteration with the carapace and the calcium, and it was all flaky and delicate, and you could tell that they were like very serious about their work. It was really excellent detail, right where it needed to be.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Great ending.
Great ending.
Thank you. I thought you would like the ending, Jennifer. That was for you. I'm
sorry to all of our listeners and viewers. You were not part of the precast, and it was golden.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, that was fun. Okay, Jennifer, let's hear your story.
All right. So do you guys ever write anything and you don't even get very far into it, and you know the character, you know all the characters, you know what's going to happen? Okay, that's how I went with what I wrote today. But nobody else is going to get any of that because you're just going to get this little window, and so it's just going to be okay. So Piper says, I was thinking, who is she letting that go for? Oh, let me tell you, Piper. Okay, no. All right. So here's mine. So anyways, it's a scene, and I feel like I already know where this story is going, but you guys aren't going to be able to get any indication with this. But okay, here we go. I'll let you know when I have the skeleton. Well, that's not a phrase you hear very often, Gina thought. She closed the door behind her and walked down the hall toward the kitchen. The house was already abuzz with activity, and it was only 10 a.m. The sorority Halloween party wasn't until 10 p.m. She couldn't even imagine how crazy things were going to get. She slung her backpack onto her back and headed for the front door. Where are you going? Gina stopped and turned toward the living room. At least 8 of her sorority sisters sat around the room blowing up balloons. Why balloons were necessary for a Halloween party that would be held in near pitch dark atmosphere with a bunch of fraternity guys that were too drunk to notice anyway, Gina did not know. But by the look of disapproval she was receiving from them, apparently balloons were very important. I have a chem exam on Monday. I'm headed to the library. Today? You have all day Sunday to study. This remark came from the corner where another sister was not so skillfully hanging fake spiderweb across a bookshelf. At least her decorating efforts made sense for Halloween. It's a big task, Gina answered and turned back toward the door. But what about your responsibilities here? My classes come first, Gina said over her shoulder. Wait, Denise, the president of their sorority said. Just so you know, if you don't help with the setup, you will have to help with cleanup. Gina counted to 10, then turned to face the senior. Denise, we both know that whether I helped set up or not, the cleanup will fall completely in my lap anyway. It always does. Denise did little to hide the smirk that twitched her artificially plumped up lips. Just wanted to make sure that you understood. Gina forced herself to not slam the door behind her as she exited the 3-story brownstone that served as housing for her sorority, and once again cursed herself for getting involved in Greek life in the first place. It wasn't the first piece of bad advice she'd ever received from her stepmother, but it was the most difficult one to deal with. 3, 2, 1.
Wow. Yeah. Now, see, you're acting like no one's going to care about this but this is like tea, girl. I'm all invested in this now. I want to know. Obviously, she's like, I'm in sorority life. Like, this is all very, very, very well formed for me. Don't you ladies agree?
Yeah. And you were done way early, too.
No, just like 30 seconds.
Oh.
But I needed more. I was like, we were like, because we chatted so much, we did our sprint at the very end. And like, I had to get more coffee. So I'm like, running up the stairs with a coffee pot.
I can totally picture all those mean girls.
Yeah.
And they're blowing up their balloons.
Yep.
And see, here's the thing too that I know about like how I write and like that is that so I know who she is already. I can feel it already. I know who she is, and I know who I'm going to partner her with. It's going to be her opposite, right? It's going to be like this is going to be it's got to be someone that you wouldn't see. So it's probably going to be a frat guy, right? So how am I going to write a frat guy that's super likable? And no offense to anybody who was in like Greek life, because I wasn't. So like I'm really only going to be doing this based on like the perceptions, right? So
right.
He's got to be a
baseball player.
I already have a baseball player story. Like
I'm actually a football player, jock, and he's like in the sorority because he's just really popular, and he's not that smart, like academically.
Oh yeah. So I like that angle, but I think generally speaking that fraternity guys are not athletes. Athletes are too busy to be in Greek life.
Well,
but
I went to Mott, again, so I have no clue.
All I know is Revenge of the Nerds, which was all about. The jocks were in one, so that's why I thought that all the jocks were in Greek life. So I guess I shouldn't get my cultural education from movies and television. Is that the lesson that you're telling me?
No, you should.
I'm so American, always. I swear. Yes, I should always 100%. Yes.
Again, this was a sprint, so who knows? I might have a whole bunch of stuff, but as far as like the characters and who they are and what their goals are, I already have that in my head. So
I thought it was very, very well done as far as painting a scene for us. Good job, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, let's find out what everybody is going to be doing for the next week. So, Jamie, what's next for you?
Well, my latest newsletter just went out, and this month I had a throw together for dump cake. If you've never made a dump cake, it's you dump in a bunch of ingredients and you get a yummy cake. So in this this month's newsletter, I put the dump cake recipe. If you didn't get it, you can go to www.writingshorts.net and sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get my ebook for free sent right to your inbox. And you'll also find on there that recipe for dump cake and a lot of other good and fun stuff for you to read. So www.writingshorts.net.
All right, Tina.
Well, I decided to start a private Facebook group for my fans. And so if you like to be part of the Christina Catane VIP readers, let me know and I will send you a link. Or you can look it up on Facebook. I think it's discoverable. I think it's just private. So, and also my husband and I are planning a little weekend away on April 9th. So I'm really excited about that. We are going to go stay. It's called Castle in the Country.
Oh.
And we are staying in the King Arthur room.
Oh.
And they bring you breakfast in bed. Like they wanted to know if I had any dietary needs. So
where is this at?
It's near Holland, Michigan.
Okay.
Awesome.
And she's going when the tulips are blooming.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. It's awesome.
Very nice. Very nice.
So I'm really excited about that.
I'm excited for you.
It's not this week, but I could not mention it.
Yeah. All right, Jen, what do you got?
All right. So my goal, if you guys remember, my goal was I was going to get book 3 uploaded and order the proof copy ordered. And that did not happen because my husband on Saturday came home from work injured. We ended up in the ER. He just had surgery yesterday, like not life-threatening, but he's in a lot of pain. But I would like to say that even in the midst of all of that, and of course COVID, so I'm sitting in the car waiting for most of this to happen, all these things. So I did get to go in the ER with him. Anyway, I am so close. Like I could have last night uploaded and had like the proof copy on its way, but we had some complications with his medication. And also I got to the metadata part and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop and I am going to do the due diligence I need to right here. And because I do not have to order it right this second.
Right. Good for you.
So
wow, that's maturity. Good for you. And thank you for sharing that with us. Because the temptation would be to be all in a hurry.
right? Because I had a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cover is done, interior is done, like everything is ready to go, and so I feel really good about that. So that's my what's next is figuring out the metadata and getting the book ordered before next Friday.
What a very mature decision. I really admire that. I strive to be more mature like that. I'm so impatient. Thank you, Jennifer, for modeling maturity.
Yeah. All right, what about you, Rhonda?
What I'm doing is so Mom is compiling. She's printing everything out. I don't know if anybody remembers what Tina did when she was editing her book, but she's doing basically the same thing. And she's got until Monday to do that. And then we're going back through. And oh my word, have never been this far.
So excited.
One of these nonfictions. I'm so excited. I can't stand it. But me, I'm pretty much just going to be like shelling and daydreaming about lions all weekend. That's what I'm doing.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, I wonder what's next for our listeners.
That's what I was wondering.
I sure hope that on Tuesday, Rhonda, do you have your hydration ready? That they will join us for newsletter chat on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Because we get together and talk about the best way to promote yourself after all, which is getting everybody to sign up to hear from you on the regular. And if you don't know what you would put in your, not going to say it because I'm talking and I can't stop to hydrate, you can come to our chat every Tuesday at 9. Is that what time we do it?
9 a.m.
I say it so questioningly because I'll show up at 9 a.m. thinking, oh, it's time to get ready. And it'll be time to go live. So I'm always like 9.
Teresa's what's next is more editing, trying to finish edits on March 31st.
Good.
Michelle says her what's next, short story work and arc reading.
Okay. All righty. Yeah, and the chat was so busy. We're so sorry that we couldn't like be more engaged with what you all were saying in the chatterbox, but we were chatterbox.
Okay, well, if nobody has anything else to say for this week, this will conclude the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. So, until next week, may your pen be prolific, your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.